The Redmi K20 Pro is a solid flagship smartphone offering as we saw in our review. While the camera too promises on paper, it remains to be seen just how good it is in real life. This is Sandeep from RevAtlas. Let's take a look at the camera review of the Redmi K20 Pro. It's worth mentioning that the Redmi K20 and K20 Pro both share the same camera hardware, and as a result this review applies also to the Redmi K20. There's only one major change that you need to keep in mind, and that's that the Redmi K20 doesn't support 4K 60fps video recording as a result of it using a Snapdragon 730 chipset as opposed to a Redmi K20 Pro which has a Snapdragon 855 chipset powering it. Before we get started, let's take a minute to check out some of the skins from Capes India for your Redmi K20 and K20 Pro. They have a wide variety of skins for various smartphones, including this marble skin which looks dope in my opinion on this red color variant especially, and even this wood variant which looks nice and will be a new texture that Capes India is launching soon. Check out capesindia.com or follow the link in the description below and use coupon RevAtlas to get 10% off on your order. The Redmi K20 Pro features a primary 48MP half-inch Sony IMX586 sensor with f1.75 aperture in the middle, a 2x telephoto camera with 8MP resolution and f2.4 aperture at the top, while the bottom is a 13MP ultra-wide-angle camera with f2.4 aperture and 124.8 degree field of view. Images are sharp and well detailed, and the phone chooses to prioritize that while allowing some noise instead of overcompensating and reducing the noise at the sake of sharpness lost. The shots are a bit on the warmer side, and dynamic range is good, and night mode helps improve that even in daylight conditions while adding some clarity to the mix as well. Low light performance is not really a strong suit of the stock camera. Images are decent but not great as there are high levels of noise, and even though there's some noise reduction happening, it doesn't quite cut it. Night mode makes things slightly better, but it still needs some tweaking to get the best out of the sensor. The ultra-wide-angle camera has a really wide field of view which helps create very dramatic looking images, and it does well in terms of dynamic range and the overall exposure and look. Low light images from the ultra-wide-angle camera aren't very good and give blotched details and dark frames. Hopefully an update will bring night mode to the ultra-wide-angle camera as well, and that should fix it to a large extent. The telephoto camera offers that extra reach to help get the image where you can't get closer, but if possible, always use the primary sensor as the telephoto sensor has lower quality and sharpness, and the quality drops as the light reduces as well. Coming to portrait mode, by default, it uses the telephoto camera to capture the portrait mode shots, and now with the update, we can use the portrait shots with the primary camera as well. In terms of dynamic range, the K20 Pro prefers to have more details and information from the shadows, while it has a tendency to overexpose the highlights. The portrait mode isn't the best, but the edge detection and sharpness are pretty good, and if you need anything better, you'd be happier going with the Gcam mod, which we shall talk about later. The Redmi K20 Pro has a 20MP f2.2 pop-up camera, and the images from the front-facing camera have good sharpness and detail in good lighting conditions. When the light drops a bit, there's a tendency for shakes in photos due to a smaller aperture needing more light to enter the sensor, thereby using a longer shutter speed. When the light gets really low, the images still retain good sharpness and detail but have more visible noise. I prefer this over having very soft images just to reduce the noise though. Portrait mode is good in terms of edge detection as well as blur quality, but the edge detection threshold sometimes goes a bit overboard and blurs tiny portions out, such as your ears. In terms of video, you can capture up to 4K 60fps without EIS and 4K 30fps with EIS. I'd personally use 4K 30 because unlike some other phones, the 60fps doesn't really provide much better details or quality, and it mainly just gives extra frames, but you lose out on the polished feel that EIS brings to a table. The great thing is that you can do 4K 60fps as well with all three cameras and not just the primary one. The front-facing camera can do 1080p 30fps without EIS, but considering how the processor is capable of doing the same with EIS, we hope that they enable it with an update. Hey guys, this is Sandeep from RevAtlas, and this is the front-facing camera on the Redmi K20 Pro capturing 1080p 30fps video. Let me know what you guys think about the overall sharpness, the dynamic range, the stabilization, and how well it's picking up my voice in this particular scenario. It supports Camera 2 API out of the box, which means that it can also run Google Camera mods. We took it for a spin to see how it helps in terms of images, and in terms of default dynamic range, the Gcam mod doesn't help improve things by much compared to the HDR mode on the stock camera app, but where the mod does make a difference is in two areas, number one being low light with the help of the night sight mode, and number two being portrait mode. Gcam mode helps to improve low light quality by quite a bit thanks to superior processing and image stacking algorithm, especially under low light. The images are better exposed, have higher sharpness and details as well as lower noise levels. When it comes to a portrait mode, you get much better edge detection as well as a stronger blur to the background and improved sharpness and detail compared to a regular portrait mode on the stock camera. Being a 48 megapixel sensor, you can also capture images using 48 megapixels of resolution using the auto mode or even the pro mode, but we'd recommend sticking to a 12 megapixel pixel binned images considering that they have better sharpness and lower noise levels compared to the 48 megapixel mode. The Redmi K20 Pro might not be as great as some of the other flagships on the market when it comes to video recording, but the image quality is pretty solid and whatever few issues there are mitigated using the Google Camera mod. All that at a price that's a fraction of those other flagships we mentioned earlier while providing around 85 to 90% of performance. Thanks for watching this video. Please do hit the subscribe button if you liked it. See you again in the next one.